Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and today I'm talking about the Zotero iOS beta. This is the new mobile app that Zotero is releasing to work with their desktop application that is also free and open source software, as well as, well, within a week or two's time, how my workflow has already changed again in Zotero. Because this stuff is always fluid, I only do what works, and if something works better, I'm gonna do that, not what I said in the video 3 weeks ago or whenever. So if this sounds interesting to you, stay tuned. So like I said, things are always changing and my workflow is constantly shifting. So whenever you see one of these videos, it's just a snapshot in time of what it might be at that given moment. So from the last video I did on Zotero, which was, I think, a week or 2 or 3 ago, where I was talking about the new beta and talking about how it's not really going to work for me yet because of the way that we can't really extract annotations the way we're used to Markdown, is that my workflow has already changed. And I'm going to tell you the few changes that happened and give a comprehensive review of the beta iOS app as it currently stands. And it looks good. The best ways to support the channel are, if you're going to do it on an ongoing basis, GitHub sponsors because they take no fees, followed by Patreon. If you're going to do like a one-time thing, buy me a coffee, PayPal are just fine. And if you just want to support me without any money involved, the best thing you can do is like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and that's it. So before we unpack the iOS beta, let me tell you about how my workflow has already changed again. So I will share my screen. All right, so what has changed? The first thing you might notice from the video a couple weeks ago is that I just removed all those collections, all the nested, my rough attempt at Johnny Decimal collections over here, completely got rid of that. And it was for a specific reason. So Johnny Decimal I'm finding is really useful, especially in like my business or personal files and contexts. But what I was noticing in here is, yeah, it could have worked, it sort of worked, but with the way that the tags work in here, it's almost unnecessary. I noticed myself reverting to old habits and needing all those nested hierarchies and folders and organization. And now I like Johnny Decimal and I use it at work and I'm starting to use it with my own personal files. But in here, I felt it was actually unnecessary, especially with the tools that Zotero gives you. And I decided to change it again, my workflow. And what I'm doing now with collections is I am treating it as like, for instance, this collection, How to Take Smart Notes. This would be, I just read a paper, a book, an item, and that, whatever it was, book, paper, item, has now cited other things that I want to read. Now, I don't want to forget the context in which I discovered those items that I want to read. So for instance, I read How to Take Smart Notes. That book cites many other things. So all those things I have now added to this collection. All these items are kept at the top level under my library. But in this collection, I can subset to only showing the things that are related to How to Take Smart Notes. And with this, I'm able to say, okay, I feel like diving in a little bit more into the zettelkasten type stuff, and I want to read some of the research that was brought into that discussion. I can go to this collection and then start going through these items. Versus, instead of having to hunt and peck to wherever I filed all of these into these several levels of nested folders, it's just based on origin point. And from this, I can just process these, and then when I'm done, when I don't need the collection anymore because I have processed all of them, the notes are in Obsidian, I can do what I want with them over there, but then, this status emoji that I talked about in my last video is now going to be changed to being done. So one of the things I really liked about Zotero that I didn't honestly realize just because I haven't used a lot of these features until just poking around from the last video is the way that the tagging system works is different than some of the other applications I've used. And it basically makes it inconsequential to use folders and collections beyond like this basic simple example. So what I'm doing is, let's say I want to look at only the things I have wanted to read, like they're what I want to read next. And if I click on the book, okay, that filters down some results. Well, let's see, I only want to read things that are about data science. So I can click data science. Okay, so now the book and data science are selected, and now I only have 2 other tags. Everything else is filtered out. So what I really like about this is that it is progressive filtering. If you robustly tag all your stuff and just give it all the tags that are any sort of somewhat relevant, then when you start clicking on different pieces of subject matter, so in this case, I just start with status and then start picking down my subject matter of what I want to read, it's easy to filter down to what you actually want to see. So I found this is a much more less cognitive load, less friction, and a more robust way of being able to access what I care about looking at without having to deal with folders. Again, less friction. Get the folders out of here. I don't need to manually drag things to every place, especially since in Zotero collections are meaningless. Everything is at a top level. It's kind of like the folders in Obsidian, because you can link to any file in any other folder no matter what level they're at, and it does not matter. The file path doesn't matter. It's just link to that item. So in this case, this is why I've already changed that directory structure, is that the tagging system in here is just so good that I found this to be an easier way of doing it with less work. And yet again, another shout out to Bri Watson, who is always helping me with various things in my information classification system. Simple little thing, adding an underscore to my Zotero taxonomy note here does make it sort to the top. Kind of a no-brainer. Why didn't I do that from the beginning? So now it will always be up at the top if everything is sorted alphabetically, which lets me see at a very quick glance what I have for my tags as they stand right now. If I update this, this will change. But what I've also done is over here in the bottom right, if you can see it, actually my face is blocking it. Let me change that. So over here in the bottom right, I've actually tagged this with every single status tag. Now, why did I do that? Well, now, whenever I filter to any particular status of any kind, I can always have my taxonomy note available to me. If I update this and add more more complex types of classification and status tracking, if I do anything like that in here, then I want this note to be available to me at the top every time. That way I can easily reference it at any time. And so that's, one of those other minor changes that I made. All right, and now let us get to the exciting, juicy portion of the video, which is what I'm sure you're all waiting for, the review of the Zotero iOS beta. Just a brief interruption before we continue with the content. If you were interested, I do have a monthly now newsletter where I talk about cool articles I've found, new concepts I've discovered, really great tools that I've added to my workflow, and it's kind of like the go-to place for all of the recent and up-to-date happenings of all the things that I'm doing. And also in this article, I talk about various other things like mental health or the videos that I'm releasing, and it's also just a good direct line of communication to have a conversation with me. I also will be talking about updates and releases for my upcoming product, Obsidian for Business, where I have several different tools and scripts and programs set up to facilitate the plain text life, but in a firewalled, protected Microsoft Office 365 environment. I use this in the government public sector workforce, so this could probably work for you. And if you are interested in that, my newsletter is the best place to get ahead of any of those news about it. And anybody who is a Patreon GitHub supporter, you will be the first to be able to beta test it, as well as you will get to use it and have it for free. So if any of that sounds interesting, sign up to my newsletter. The link to that is in the description and the pinned comment below. And let's get back to the content. All right, so for this next portion, I'm just gonna have my phone open and I'm gonna be walking you through what I'm doing as I'm looking at the app and talking about it. So thus far, the app is really great because it syncs very quickly. It's very intuitive and very easy to use. I actually really enjoy it. And already, great points, it has dark mode. So it's already using my system's dark mode because I have it set to dark mode default onto my iPhone, and it just picks up that setting. You can manually change that to be whatever color you want, light or dark, but dark mode, right on. Now, I really also like the very simple and intuitive interface. So right now, I only have my library. There's no group libraries right now because this is beta and they don't want anybody's stuff to get messed up, especially with you have to upgrade to a new beta type of database. It changes your Zotero database, which I mentioned in the last video. And to prevent any potential errors with group work, they're only limiting this to your own personal library. So if I go into there, go to my library, I see some items here. Now the top one is my library. All the files and folders and everything you saw in my Zotero collection, this is it. Now there's the folder for how to take smart notes that I was mentioning. And we go there, you can see all those items. Right on, dark mode, so nice. Now trash, it's exactly what you think it is. And already, okay, really simple, really clean, great. So now how do we use this app? What is this for? So a lot of what Zotero's mission with this app is they want you to be able to edit and deal with your documents anywhere at any time. So on my phone, maybe not as useful, but because it's iOS, it means that we can use this on our iPads. So let's see what manipulating some of this might actually look like. So if we go to the documents, I'm going to go to all items, and I'm going to go to a descriptive framework, whatever this one is. Now, I don't have it installed, so I actually have to, tap it, and then it starts to download a copy to my phone. So this way we don't actually download a bunch of junk right off the bat. It's just, hey, what do I have on here? And now I actually want to receive a copy of this to do something with. So if I click on that document, there we go. We get a document. And already, great feature is that if I'm in dark mode, it actually treats the PDF as if it's in dark mode. Kind of like the inversion that you get on several other different types of PDF readers. I really, really like that. If you wanted to change this, you could change the appearance to be light mode if that was your preference. Oh, blinding. I honestly prefer dark mode, so I'm gonna leave it onto my dark mode because I like to have my retinas, thank you. So already, really simple, really intuitive, clean interface. There's some buttons down here. We're gonna go through what those do. The information about these documents. So if we just go right back out and say, okay, looking at this interface, there's a little I for information. What does that mean? What does that do? If I click on that, the I, it actually gives you the metadata for that document. Normally the stuff in that right-hand side panel of Zotero. So this is really useful. It's accessible, but it's not in your face taking up screen real estate, which the desktop app, it kind of does. So that's really nice. And it gives you the information about the top level item. So if you have a bunch of note files underneath a item in Zotero, which is a thing, you can see at the bottom attachments. For this one, it's only just the PDF document, but it also will show you the tags. That's really cool. Now, if we go back out and let's open up the document. Now you saw this already, but inside this document, I can now go in, zoom in, and read at will, do whatever. Now, probably more accessible on the iPad, but if we're on our phones, how can we actually do some great work with this? So with the phone, I can zoom into this text and, okay, well, how do I move through pages? How am I going to highlight and take annotations and do any of that stuff? Well, if I zoom back out, I can actually swipe and go to different pages. And that's pretty nice. And if we go in and tap and hold and then drag our cursor down, you can select text and you get this little pop-up. Now, I'm not going to do it because I'm not sure about the effects of doing the audio, but clicking speak actually does a decent text to speech of whatever you have selected. So that's actually really nice, especially for accessibility purposes. It's really cool. I haven't done share, but I'm sure you can actually share the text to somebody or something. So that's interesting. Copy, but then also this A character lets you actually change the highlight or actually add a highlight. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So with that highlight now on the text, if I tap it, you can see it actually selected that area. Now I'm actually able to write an annotation. Yellow note. Okay, cool. Now that's all we want. Done. Okay, well, what does that do? So with the new annotation system in the Zotero beta, this is the one that breaks the MD notes and Zot file workflow. If I open up this panel icon in the top left panel, it'll actually, just like in Zotero with the new PDF reader interface, show you the highlighted sections and those notes. That is really, really cool. So now that we have our note in here, I can go out of the document, or I can just collapse that panel, collapse it, and okay, here we are. What you can also do with these annotations now that you've already made one, or just the highlight, is I can tap the highlight and the ellipsis next to done. If I tap that, here's some options of we can actually edit after the fact those annotations. Let's say I accidentally selected a few too many words. So I'm going to get rid of some of these words down here at the bottom. There we go. Seeks to provide. I'm going to get rid of all of that and remove that from the actual highlight portion. Cool. So save that. And that's really all we need. Just yellow note. Okay. Cool. And did it do it? Nope. The actual highlighted portion here still shows that, but the actual highlighted text in here is removed. Maybe that's a bug. Maybe not. I don't know. But one other thing we can also do by editing these highlighted annotations, if we go to the ellipsis, is we can change the color. So let's say you accidentally defaulted to this yellow color, which is what I did. We can actually say, nah, make it green. And let's just say, here's an example. If you, for instance, and I've heard this complaint a lot about PDF annotation extraction with Zot file and MD notes, is let's just say you're reading a paper that actually is showing page 89, but it's only the second page of the PDF. Well, if you actually want it to be page 89 for the purposes of your actual citations, then what you could do is you can actually go here to page and change page number. Now, I'm not sure, I haven't tested this yet, if it will let you pick an arbitrary number. Oh, it looks like it will. Save. Interesting. It will let you save to say page 86, even though this document only has 9 pages or so. I'm not actually sure how many pages it has. But in any case, you can actually arbitrarily change what page number you want on that. So that's already really useful. Now, continuing on, let's delete that annotation and go back to the front of the document. 28 pages is what we have here, actually. Cool. So already you saw me easily navigate between different pages. I swiped way down there and I was able to quickly just get, oh yes, there's the slider. So I can easily slide between different pages here. Big document, okay. And, okay, what else can we do? So we tapped and held and then dragged to make our highlight and our annotation. But what you can also do is these icons in the bottom left. So the little pencil makes it easy to add your highlights. So instead of having to tap and hold and maybe miss something, I can just tap that pencil and then select some text, and there you go, highlighted. I can change the color of the highlight to green, highlight that in green, and there you go. Very easy, very, very easy to highlight. And once we're done, we can tap the pencil to turn it off, tap our annotations, and then add whatever we want to it. Simple as that. Or you can also tap the note icon next to the pencil and add a free-floating note. And what you can do is you can just tap that, and, well, if it's not going to give me focus there, tap that, and then say green, note, and say done. And we're going to add a note for here, yellow note, because we're going to open this up in the desktop application and see how this syncs across. Okay. And so already opening the side pane, you can see there's all of our highlights. There's the green free-floating note. All of this stuff is captured easily, very accessible, very easy to add and make. But there's also a new option. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work with the MD notes and Zot file workflow later on, but what you can do is you can get this selection icon right next to the color and actually make a visual selection of a document, such as an image or a figure or a graph. And with that, ideally in highlights, in the new Zotero highlights, it'll actually show you what that looks like an image or a figure. So that would be really useful if that could be worked in and extracted with the Zot file and MD notes plugin, but we'll have to wait and see how these things shake out because that is not quite there yet. All right, so let me see what I got here on my table of contents. Okay, so the share button. We have the share button in the top right. If we share this actual PDF document, what this is going to do is that this will actually let you share the document, annotations and all. So a completely marked up version of the document to somebody else. Now, Zotero did say on their desktop application and I think it was on their release announcement, that the annotations are going to be held within Zotero. So if you exported a PDF from the desktop application, it would actually be the plain PDF, and the actual data of those annotations would be stored within Zotero, which makes it easier to then give somebody a clean document without your messy markup. But what that does mess up is the actual, how do we get those things out? And that's why the new system is not, it breaks the MD notes and Zot file workflow at this point. So we'll get there eventually. But the share button will let you share, markup and all, your document to anybody else. Now, that's already really useful. But then when we change the settings, settings gear. You have three options here right now. Now, appearance you already saw me fiddle with. That one is actually changing it from light mode to dark mode. But the other one, page transition and scroll direction, are probably what you think. And I'm going to change the page transition and direction to the opposites, which is continuous and vertical. Normally they are jump and horizontal. What that means is that now we scroll horizontally and the pages don't snap to the next one. It's just a continuous flow of the PDF. And my personal preference is I actually really like the snapping horizontal swipe. That's just my personal preference. So I think that's where we're going to cap the review for the iOS application right now. But thus far, I am really, really liking how this looks, how it feels, how it works. I can already see how this will be really great on the iPads, especially because now that it's using its own internal annotation PDF editing system, we're not going to have to rely on any sort of external PDF reader or any other application, just all things Zotero. Free, open source, beautiful. Okay, we messed around with the iOS app. How does that work and sync to the desktop application? What does this look like? How does it look like when I edit remotely and then come back to my computer and see these edits? So let's look at the application. So in the new version of Zotero, I'm currently not using this, but for the sake of the example, I'm going to show you. The document we edited is right here. Already it's been synced. I didn't have to do anything. It syncs automatically as long as you have connection. And here are the annotations. Here's our free floating note, different colors, and our visual selection. You can see there's the visual selection. Just like in the other video where I reviewed this, you can move arrow keys and see the different annotation items over here. And we can double click this note and it'll just, actually double click doesn't open it up like the other one. Here we go, green note, there's the yellow note, another highlight, the actual visual selection. Really cool. Yeah, oh, you can expand it too. There we go. And just like that, the new annotations are in Zotero from the iOS app. Already, this is massively valuable. The minute you can get these items into plain text for the Obsidian Vault, I am all over this. The application is easy to use. It means I don't need to use any other application like a PDF reader. No more dealing with freemium or paid versions. No more having to even look at Adobe Acrobat. And it's just going to be a great experience. And it's free and open source software. It's open, it's extensible. Mendeley is shutting down their mobile app. They have a closed source system, very hard to get plain text annotations out, whereas Zotero is incredibly extensible, plain texts, all you want, crazy great features, and a brand new iOS app that's going to make all this seamless syncing possible. And the only thing that they do, to my knowledge, to make money is they just charge for, hosting your stuff on the web if you host it online. That's it. Wow. If they're doing great work like this already, consider supporting them. Consider doing this. I'm not sponsored. I just think that this is an amazing ecosystem of products that are both free and open source, great for academia, and just actually serve a utilitarian purpose. Great products. Well done, Zotero. So hopefully you found this video interesting. Hopefully you're as excited as I am about the future of Zotero and their mobile app. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're already using the beta, what you think about it, and what sort of cool things are you doing with your Zotero workflows? I'd love to know and maybe add something to my own personal workflow. And a quick note before we go, a big thank you to the Patreon and GitHub sponsors and supporters who support the channel. None of this is mandatory or expected at all, and so everyone who does, thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really makes this feel worthwhile and fun to do. It's nice to know that other people appreciate the work and contribute in some way to say thank you. So thank you. All right, and with that said, I will catch you all in the next one.